Hi guys, and welcome to this week's episode of Spotlight. I am absolutely honored to be in the presence of a South African musical legend, even though he's a very, very humble guy. He won't call himself that. Mr. Johan Kelber. Johan, thanks so much for having us in your studio and having time to chat with us today. So to give you a little bit of background, Johan, I've known him for almost 2 decades now. Almost 2 decades. And when I was a young engineer, when I left the big corporate recording studio environment, I actually moved into his studio. I don't know if you remember that, just here in Pretoria. He had his studio with a nice booth, and he had 2 extra booths in the room just down the stairs. And he said, you know what, nobody's using that space. Come, set up your computer and everything over here. Which was great because the flat that I used to stay in, my neighbors downstairs hated the fact that I was pumping, the speakers so loud. So we moved in there, and that's where we started working together. So enough about me. Let's talk about Johan. So Johan, tell us, or people that haven't heard about you, where do you come from? How did you get involved in music? What inspired you to start producing and all of that?
Thank you, Dewald. I didn't expect that introduction.
They never do.
But anyway, thank you for the opportunity. It's great talking about what happened in my life, because I think it's wonderful the things that happened in my life to music. I started off in a musical family. My mother is still today deep in her 70s. She's still a piano and a violin teacher. And my father is a dominee, Dutch Reformed minister, and he also studied music before he did that. So I grew up in a house. I was the oldest of 4 children, and all 4 of our children played piano, and I had lessons from my mother, as well as a string instrument. I played the cello, and the other 3, they played or still playing violin. So often we played as a family, all 6 quartet. Of us, yeah. Awesome. And what awesome! That's what a privilege to be raised like that. Yeah. So that's where it all started, and I studied. I had music as a subject at school, also piano and cello as main instruments, and then after that I moved to the Canaries, and I think. The Canaries today is very famous because of that film.
What did you do? Why didn't you just stay there? Lie on the beach and just tag?
No, we worked hard. I remember we had about 260 gigs per year.
Yo.
So when we went to the border, we at some stage we had 3 gigs a day, and that means you have to put up stage and strike. And it's like big bass bands, man. Yes, it was
so that was before Class D amplifiers,
Yeah, no, I was privileged to be part of the Canaries. I learned a lot. I know Charles Johan, who's famous now for the movie, and I was also a arranger like him and some other guy as well. Siegfried Pretsch is also a very, very honorable musician. So we did the arrangements, and we did a lot of commercial music. I was raised in this classical music home. All the influence that I got was all classical. And then when I moved to the Canaries, I've learned about Duran and these guys.
All the pop guys.
Yeah, all the pop guys and rock and roll. So that was a good season in my life. And after that, I moved to Stellenbosch study music. Cello is main instrument, although piano was my second instrument. I played more piano and composed more than being a good musician, but I will get there later. So I was in Stellenbosch for 5 years, and in that time, in my first year, I joined a band called Karugma. It was a gospel band. It wasn't part of the student movement, but it was just an independent gospel band. And I played bass because I started playing bass in the Canaries, an instrument that I love. It's my 3rd instrument, but I love playing bass. It's the bottom, is the
it's what life is about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I played bass there, and then the leader moved away, and I was the leader of the group, starting playing keyboards, and that's where I started doing backtracks. In my second year, that was 1989. I started.
Okay, wait. Making backtracks in 1989. Tell us how. Because remember, there's like no MacBooks, no
nothing
audio interfaces. So.
I remember I had a little screen this size, and it was amber, and it was hot. It was amazing to work on a 320 computer. It's long before the days of
1980. Think about that. That is 30 years ago.
Yeah. And the program that I worked on was, I started with Cakewalk, and then I moved to Voetra. And that was the in thing. It was amazing working on those things.
So with
but like I say, all amber.
MIDI controller or MIDI into. Yeah. How did that work? Like interface wise?
Yeah, it's like interfaces that you get today. The same MIDI inputs. The same connectors. Yeah. Can you believe it? So yeah, I had a Yamaha DX7, which it wasn't multi-timbral, so I had to buy something else to do
Expansion cards,
yes. And I bought my own first keyboard was a Roland U20. And it was 8-part multi-timbral. So there I made all my backtracks on. And I remember specifically, in those days, it was the big hit, my big idol, and still is Michael W. Smith. Amazing music that he made. And I remember in those days, this big reverb on a snare. That was the in sound of the early 90s. And I battled to get that sound. And one day, after about 3 years playing, you can imagine doing backtracks with this a snare without reverb. Can you imagine that? So one day I discovered this, and it was just heaven hearing this sound.
And that was
it was a very simple thing. You have to go into the thing and program it. So in today to see, you can see the tail of the reverb.
Yeah, because the thing about that was completely synthesis. The sound was actually designed. It's not like today where everybody now, you just pull in a snare sample, which is an actual snare that has been recorded. It was actually the computer.
No, it was all synthesized.
Crazy. All right, so 1989. Sorry, I went on a tangent.
So that's where I started, and when I finished my studies with BMAS that I studied, I moved into a premises in Stellenbosch, very small little office. And my first recorder was a Fostex R8 reel-to-reel 8-track.
I'm going to have to go Google this.
Yeah, you have to.
Way before.
Yeah, it was a 1/4 inch with these 2 reel-to-reels, and you record. You've got 8 tracks, and one of the channels you have to sacrifice for SMPTE. That is the sync that's coming from your sequencer. So I made a basic backtrack with keyboards and pads and stuff, and maybe a shaker, and then the band comes in. Then you get the drummer to play with what I did on Voetra, and then you bounce the drum tracks to a 2-track. It must be stereo, obviously, and then bass, and then guitar. So you've got,
and then you bounce it again back to
Thank goodness. And you bounce it to that. That is your final. That was my final mix down. I never.
The specific one or the same one?
No, it wasn't. It was one like that, but I bought this one later.
Yeah.
But you mixed it through the desk. That was a Soundcraft at that stage, and then you bounce it to that. But the guys still at those days, they bounced it to another reel-to-reel, which was a 2-track.
Yeah.
So that's my start with reel-to-reel, and then I came to Pretoria. That was 1989. That's when I met you early
2000
in the new millennium.
We met in
2003
3 or 4. Around there.
Yeah, it was around.
Then you were already kind of established. I'm sure I remember artists.
It was I'm always thankful for Maranatha, for the record company. They gave me the opportunity. I moved with no guarantee from the Cape to Pretoria with one project, and that was a project for Jan de Wet, and I got a Lear Award for that, for best producer, and that was one of my highlights. So, and then it moved on from there, and since then I'm here.
Yeah.
So it's 20 years. No, last year it was 20 years, 21 years. Yeah, so, and in Maranatha I worked with Louis Langerman.
Yes,
you know him.
Yes,
I've learned a lot from him. I must say one of my mentors and one of my best friends, who's also a producer that I honor, is Ali Heinz. He always say all the producers or sound engineers, they comes in three. You either a producer or a arranger or a sound engineer, or you have to be all of them. Yes. I actually want to add a fourth one, like you must be a session musician or a good musician as well. But he will say he is number one, a sound engineer, number two, a producer, number three, a bit of a arranger. I am a arranger, producer, sound engineer. So what
and
why I'm saying that
you're an absolutely fantastic musician. So I would say musician.
Yeah. I'm firstly a pianist and a performer and a musician, and then an arranger, producer, and a sound. Why I'm saying that is I've learned from Louis. He's one of the guys that I've followed, and he's an incredible sound engineer. And I've learned to be a good sound engineer by being in the industry for so many years. Yeah. And that's an honor working with lots of guys who. You as well. You're an incredible sound engineer. The production, the production that we did there was amazing. It's still one of the best sounds that we've.
Yeah, I actually wanted to bring a copy. I don't remember. We did an album called Head Noise. Oh no, it was. We did it under the label Head Noise. The album was called Soul Noise.
Yes, I've got it here. I've got it.
Concept album.
Still got it. I remember.
Yeah, that album.
The greenish.
Yes, but
color.
If you listen to it now, it's bad. I don't know. it's shocking. Like
for me, it was very fresh and tight. I remember the sound was to what I'm used to. It was punchy.
Yeah, but don't listen to it now again. It's bad. All right. Yeah. So tell us now. You have gone through this entire journey, and this is now your studio. Tell us a little bit about the gear that you use. You know, what's your your monitors? Why you use them? Favorite microphones, a little bit of what's your go-to gear for in any session?
My interface from my desk is the heart of everything. The day when I bought this was it really changed my career. From here, I've got ADAT cards in there, and out of the cards, I'm going to a RME interface, actually two, and they are going to my computer. But my recording. My analog recording goes through my Fostex, and it's got a digital A to D converter.
The
Focusrite.
Cool.
It's got a card, and my A to D conversion takes place in there before it's going into the computer.
All right.
So through my patch bay, I'm coming from that side,
from the booth into the preamps,
into
the Focusrite.
Yeah,
and then
into that's where the A to D conversion is taking place, and it's a good quality.
Yeah, I mean, so you got some nice preamps here. The Focusrite Blue range, I know, is incredible.
Yeah, it's copies of I've heard last year. It's not copies. It is Rupert Neve. He designed those preamps.
And also, I don't know if you know this, but most of, I don't know if it's still this way, but DigiDesign and Avid with all of the Pro Tools interfaces that is also the Focusrite, the same exact pre's that they use in that. And
the Focusrite is amazing.
Yeah, and then also the Langevin
Manley
is also incredible.
Yeah.
So what for a vocal, what is your preferred pre?
I've got a Rode NTK valve mic. It's as you know by now, Rode's got quite established and a good name. I started buying Rode's when it was still an entry level, or it was new on the market. Yeah. It's Australian, but it's a copy of the Neumann U87.
Yeah.
And I use it. I don't have a U87. I wish I can have one.
One day when we're all grown up.
Yes. So no, that is my. I've got two. NTKs, and I use it for vocals and obviously room mics when I record track drums.
Yes.
Which I love doing.
I know Bruce Wallace does exactly the same. He's got 2 Rode NTK2s that uses room mics. And I mean, that sound is huge.
So that's my favorite mic. I love working with it. Yeah.
Cool. And preamp wise, or does that depend obviously
on
whatever?
That is my high end mic pre's. Is those two 4 channels Manleys, and then the Focusrite 4.
Yeah.
And if when I track drums, I record 12 tracks. Then I use of the desk of the
which
Yamaha.
Is also great pre's.
It's very transparent.
Yeah.
What you hear there is what you hear here. So it doesn't have the character and the warmth that
obviously
those
because with
the valves
changes a bit with the valves and all of that. So yeah. Oh, awesome.
Yeah, again, I like I say, I love tracking drums. It's wonderful to get in here, and it's like 2 hours of you must concentrate, you must check. There's so many things that can go wrong, and it's 12 channels comparing to 1 when you record vocals, which is 80% of your work. Yeah. So I love tracking drums, and especially if you've got a good drummer. Yeah. So then I'm using those. Yeah. But for vocals, I use the Langevin.
Yeah. Great breeze.
Yeah. As well, when I want the Focusrite is solid state. Yeah. And I use them for rock vocals, more attacking vibe on those.
Awesome. Yes. Software wise, DAW plugins. Tell us your secrets.
I'm using Nuendo, a lot of its plugins, waves. I want to say that I'm totally against
completely cracked version.
Version of anything. So I bought a couple of what do I want to say? Native Instruments, SPOTLiGHT Digital.
Love SPOTLiGHT stuff.
I've got that, Waves, and Voxengo. That's what I'm using. So, and Hofer, I also have got Hofer. I bought that as well. That's a German company. And Native Instruments. Yeah. I use SPOTLiGHT Digital quite a lot.
Yes.
That's the plugins that I'm using. And I rely a lot on the sound of the desk. It's very transparent. It's clear. It's very, very clear. So you can always add saturation or any character if you want to from the plugins.
Yeah, for those of you who don't understand, for the young guys watching this, what it means when you say something's transparent means the sound coming in from the microphone and what you're hearing through the speakers is pretty much, it's the same sound. It doesn't get changed on the way in, like for instance, like what Johan also mentioned is whenever you record through a tube microphone or a tube preamp, that tube, that valve adds a little bit of saturation, a slight bit of distortion at the top, not distortion as guitars, but just a little bit of hiss, as we say, on the sound. So that's what I mean. So where something transparent is mainly sometimes what you want, as it doesn't affect the tone. What you record when you listen back. You're not sitting with something, that's
exactly the sound of the instrument. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Take us through your production process, if you don't mind sharing. How do you approach? Like, let's say I'm an artist. I walk in here, like I've written 5 songs. I want to record with you. How do you go about from where you hear my songs for the first time up until delivering the final album? What's your approach?
What I like doing, what I think is unique of my approach, is that I get my artist here and sing relaxed. I make them as comfortable as possible, because that is the issue. So many artists come in, they're very stressed to be in a situation like this, or everybody. So I make them as comfortable as possible. There's great coffee next door, as you know. And so they come and sit here, and I record them with my phone. And then I put it into the process, and then I sync it. To a click, or sometimes other way around. I sync my system to theirs. It depends on the song, and then I write a chart. Not always say for instance, it's somebody with a guitar. It's not always their chord. If I've got alternative chords, that's why I'm the arranger.
Yes.
So I'm not forcing anything, but I listen to the integrity of the song.
Yeah, and you obviously add ideas. You know,
Yeah,
that's obviously the artist can say
that's
whether
why
they like
they,
it
yeah,
or not. Yeah.
yeah. So then I do a basic track. Piano is my main instrument, or I'll say early in the song, I'll say, okay, this is a guitar-driven song or a piano-driven song. That's one of the things. I had a production course as well, and that's one of the things that I tell everybody about music. It's in Western music today, it's either a piano-driven song or a guitar-driven song. There's times where they can play together,
but one needs to be the...
Yeah. And that's actually a difficult process. It's easy to hear the cymbals and the kick drum and those things, but to get piano players and guitar players to play together, submissive to one another,
and supporting the vocals,
supporting that thing, it's not easy. So I will, from the beginning, I'll say, okay, this is a guitar-driven song, but I communicate it to the artist. I play piano, but think with me, it's going to be a guitar. And then I do a full arrangement with guitar simulators, plugins, to hear, okay, this is where the producer is going, and some strings and whatever, drums.
Just throwing a couple of ideas in.
Yeah, just pre-production. That's what they call pre-production. So, and then they come in and we recheck the key, and if I brought in or forced in a key change, if I think the song needs it or so, just check if the key is fine, and then we do the first round vocal and see that it sits, and then I get in the musicians, live drums, bass, guitar, and then I do the final vocal, backing vocals, mix down and mastering. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's my process.
Yeah. Awesome. So, what are you currently busy with? You know, live and studio. What's happening in your life at the moment?
What I do, important side and the big side of my career is live productions as well. So, as a musical director, I get the music or the concept, and I do the arranging. And that brings me to one of my highlights, and that was working with Joseph Clark, the Queen show. I started with the arrangements in 2002, and 2004 we toured Europe. But working with that man is incredible. He's still to today. He is a phenomenal musician, human being, vocalist. He's incredible.
The Queen thing is kind of obviously at this stage now a big thing with the whole Queen movie and all of that. And but I mean, I remember way back in 2004 when you started Joseph Clark. I mean, like you said, that guy, his vocals was just, I mean, still is absolutely. He was the first guy that I heard that could pull off Freddie Mercury, like Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I mean that's also when I think I first met Nathan Smith. That was the guitarist for.
He's the co-star in that show. That's where I met Nathan. I'm playing in his band, so I'm playing a couple of bands. He's the one that I'm committed to, and then a couple of shows with Mel Botes, Pink Floyd tribute shows, and a Beethoven classical show, Beethoven and Bach and Vivaldi, and
the Carpenters show. I saw you recently.
The Carpenters show is my. I'm trying because I follow guys, and like I say, I'm working with Nathan and Mel quite a lot, and I know they must work very hard to get theatres full, and I make my sums around what it costs to stage a production like that, and what is the profit that you get out of that. And I said to myself, I want to try, and that is my way of trying to see if I can make money out of this. And it's a stunning show. Love doing the show. It's a 7-piece band, and it's wonderful music. It's
the Beethoven show now. Or
no. I'm talking about the Carpenter show.
Oh, the Carpenter show.
Yeah, the Beethoven show. That is with Mel.
Yeah. So the Carpenter show also features, I think, Werner Bessinger.
Yeah.
Your son also on guitar.
Yeah. Well, he's so busy all over the world, playing in all sorts of other productions.
For those of you don't know, I'm going to put a link in the description. Emil Kelber, Johan's son, I've met 2004. That is 15 years ago. So he was age 6 something then. Yeah,
you're right. Yeah,
as a small, kid, and today he is like one of the hottest guitar players, currently around. I mean, I can honestly say that, and everybody I think will say that. So I'm going to put a link. Go check out Emil's page. This guy rocks. All right, so he's a great. Yeah, I mean, like father, like son. Well, like grandfather, grandmother, like father and son. All right. So yeah, you just spoke about a highlight of your career. That's something I want to talk about. So, for instance, a lot of people think the music industry is about glitz and glamour and rock and roll, and alcohol and drugs and everything, and it's not. It is. Yes, there's certain aspects, but most of the time it's about working your ass off. What was a low light? You just mentioned your highlight. I want to find, what is your low light in your career? What was the point where you felt like, you know what, I'm over this. I'm just going to get on my Harley and just drive. You know?
I think in the studio, the low light was actually a very big joke. That very same microphone that NTK Rody, it's got a little dot there where it said this is the front of the mic. And I had Kevin Leo here for a production, and he's a heavyweight if it's coming to singing. Okay. And for some other reason I had it turned around. So after the cry, it's so distant. I know his voice. It's so roomy. And he went away. I said, "What's wrong with this? Why? Everything is fine." And then I realized I turned it around. So he was singing 100% into the back end, the dead end of the mic. So that was a low light. And any show-wise, sometimes it's like you say, it's very hard work. You early up and have to go to a venue, and then you set up, and it's a rehearsal and sound checks and all those things. And by the time 8 o'clock this show starts, then you're already tired.
Kind of over.
And then you push through.
And that's actually when you have to perform.
Yeah, then you have to be on your best. Yeah, and see all the trouble you went through and all the passionate marketing that you did, and then there's 14 people or 50 people in the. Yeah, I experienced that with Nathan Smith, which I think is an incredible guitarist
and singer,
an incredible singer and a performer, and it's just stunning human being, such a lovely brother of mine. And we tour, and we're going for the third tour now in April, end of April, and it's sort of the same route that we follow from Bloemfontein, Cape Town, all the way up East London, coastwise and back. And there's some venues that's 30, 40 people, and it can take 400 people. So that is the low lights. But it's wonderful. I want to say as well, it's wonderful to see how you repeat, and that's inspiration to everybody here. Just how it grows. Every time that we go there, like East London, we jumped from I think it was the first time it was 60 people to about 180. So I'm looking forward to see next time how many growth there is after a tour like that.
Yeah, I think what I've also seen is like through touring, it's like when you actually play somewhere and you blow people away. Yeah. Next time you get it, they do invite all of their friends, like listen, you go see that. And I think a lot of musicians forget that. Yeah. It's really like you can't just put up a Facebook ad and expect people to come. You first have to go show them and then invite their friends. But I mean, I also think, maybe you agree, that with the South African culture, it's very difficult for people to go out at night. People prefer staying at home. Whereas I know that if you go to the States or the UK or Europe, I mean those live musics are
the culture. I've got experience of Europe and and it's totally different. I remember when we went to with my highlight that Queen show, which I produced and arranged for Joseph Clark, when we were in Berlin. I remember on a Sunday afternoon, I had a stroll through one of the parks there, and at the end I see as like a mall. It was like Menlyn with thousands of people, and it was a music conservatory with young children like this, can barely walk with their families, and there was 4 possibilities. You could go and watch an opera, or a symphony orchestra, or a string ensemble, or a piano recital. What culture! That was incredible for me to see that. It was very inspiring. And
here we're in South Africa. I mean, I remember going on Facebook last night looking for events, just looking for a place that I can go watch a live band.
Or symphony orchestras. It's rare.
It's rare. Cool. So, for aspiring producers, arrangers, musicians, studio engineers, what advice would you give them? You know, what, from what you've learned through your career, what would you tell them if someone came to you and said, listen, please help me? What advice would you give them?
I think the most important thing that I'll say, number one, is be a good musician. If you want to produce music, you must understand music, not just from a sound engineering point of view. I had a lot of parents came here and say, okay, my son did the DJ at school, he wants to be a sound engineer. That's not enough. You have to understand instruments, and you don't have to be a master at every instrument. Like I always inspire my students and say, be good in, say, for instance, guitar, but get behind the drum kit, understand how it works,
understand
feel it in
the language
the
of
basic
music.
rock 4/4 and how it feels to do that. If you're in the studio and you must visualize that or feel it, and you can feel it in your body, then you produce so much better. The other thing I'll say is that for me, I think to hear the harmonies, if you understand musical theory a bit about the three voices, there's not a lot of people who can, if there's a chord, say for instance doing backing vocals, because that's what producing is all about. You hear everything. You hear everything in your mind. You know where you're working towards. So you must clearly hear the tension note and be able to sing it, and to visualize it into some kind of an instrument. Say the saxophone is going to play that tension note, and backing vocals is going to sing the third, because a lot of people can take a third, backing vocals wise now, and just follow that. And for 80% of the time it can work, but there's much more to that.
It's not as interesting.
It's not as easy as that. So know your theory, and understand how music it's put together. It's amazing. It's like a person. It's like getting to know a person. So I'll say that is the most important thing. Gear, play a lot. Spend time in the studio. Sometimes I just enjoy having an open day for myself. I'm trying to block out Fridays for myself and say, Fridays I'm going to spend time composing my own stuff, working on my own CD, and working on my own development of what is in my mind.
And what you aspire to.
Yeah, and try out the plugins. Don't just go to settings and just select
Preset
the first
number
preset.
one.
It's useless. So spend time with your gear. I'll say that is really
I think I've heard this somewhere. I've probably heard it from you, or let's say I heard it from you. It's one thing about music, it's about tension and release.
Yeah,
you know, it's
absolutely.
not just about that, and I think that is key for me, what you said here in music production, in any song, is to build up tension and release it. If you think about a good movie, it builds up tension, and then it releases. It's not just this chill movie the whole time. And music is exactly the same.
Absolutely. I'm not a good songwriter. I like working with people, good lyrics, and put music to that. And one of my rule number one is stay away from the tonic. Stay away from the aha moment. So build up from the verse. Stay away. Use the alternative minor, but build it up to the chorus, where you have that moment where you release it into that aha moment. So play with the emotion of that chord, and like you say, it's tension, and then that's what people like.
And also I think key music theory. Music is a language. You know, it's not about plugging in a microphone and sing. It's definitely a language. I totally agree. Learn to play instrument, get to understand the instrument. I'm actually having a look at the chord chart there behind you, and I remember so clearly when starting to work with you, when I got your first chord chart, and I had all of these like chords with a slash in between. And at that stage, I was the opposite. I could play a little bit, and then I went into sound engineering, and then I wanted to get more into production. I remember getting a chord chart, and I'm like, what is this G/C thing? Like, what is it, like an option of a chord? And I remember you saying, no, that's the bass note. And that's where I kind of thought, okay, you know, to up my game, I really need to get into music theory. So I think, valuable advice. Awesome. Johan, if people want to get in contact with you to either help produce the album, record the album, help arrange the show, you know, get you involved as a musical director, how can they reach you?
I've got a website. It's www.johankelber.co.za.
Cool.
So I think that's the easiest to contact me there.
And also you're on Facebook as
Yeah,
well?
on Facebook and
Alright.
Instagram. And so
Cool. Well, we'll put all of those links in the description for you people to chat with Johan. Johan, thank you so much for having us in your studio today. It's been a vibe. It's so great catching
Thank
up
you.
with you again.
It's great.
It's awesome.
having you here.
Thanks so much, man. Have a lekker day.
You too.
Cool, guys. Thanks for watching. If you want to get into contact with Johan, go check out his website. Contact him on Facebook. I mean, what a great guy. You so much to learn. If you want to get involved, help on projects, you know, definitely someone I would, you know, tell you to definitely get involved with. Until next time, see you next week. Cheers.